I am currently in goal jail. And the reason I'm in goal jail is because I have been found guilty of not pursuing my goals the last 2 weeks. And so today we're going to get right into it right out of the gate. What we're going to talk about is setting goals and why they're so critical to your business. And then we're also going to talk about what happens or what you need to do if you fall off the progress train towards accomplishing those goals. So, little backstory as to why I am where I find myself in jail here today. So, I am on vacation. This is a vacation that we have planned as a family for like the last, I don't know, 6 months ago. We planned this vacation. My partner's son is at camp, and we decided that we would drive up and down the coast of the U.S. while he was away at camp. So we were in Cape Cod, Massachusetts area for an extended period of time, and now we're down in North Carolina. And it has been a fantastic trip, but I thought naively I was going to be able to keep pace with my business goals and also keep tabs on what I just have to keep up with from a family standpoint in terms of engaging in the vacation, enjoying the vacation and whatnot. And what I found is that when my home environment, my kind of regular rigor to the day was stripped away and I had free time, we had, certain places we had to be for a variety of reasons. I've got friends on the East Coast, so we had time set up to meet with people. And the long and the short of it is, I did not meet my goals the last week and a half in any way, shape, or form. And what this week represents getting back on track with my goals. And one of those goals is creating content. And I have just absolutely broken my rules for myself last week and a half where creating content is concerned. So I have not met my posting 3 days per week goal for YouTube. I have not met my goals in terms of just daily content creation in general. Now, that's not to say that I haven't done anything towards my business goals, because I have. The one thing I have done is I've done quite a bit of work based on feedback that I've received more recently on how I'm going to adjust my offer based on information, like I said, that I've received and I've taken in more recently. And so there's more to come on that. I'm not going to get off track where that's concerned. But you hear people argue for and against goals when starting a business or, I don't know, doing anything for that matter. And I think goal setting is just absolutely necessary. It's absolutely critical to the overall process of starting a business or starting anything or really doing anything, quite frankly. So it doesn't matter if you're starting a business, if you're starting a new job, if you're starting a family for that matter. Like, if you're not clear on what outcomes, which is what goals are, they're the outcomes that are like non-negotiable for you. You have no idea where you're driving the car. And the reason why that's so critical also is because with many of these, any type of goal that's a very large goal, like you might have a small daily goal, that's not necessarily the case with a small daily goal. But with a large, big, hairy, audacious type goal, like I want to make $360,000 in the next 6 months, and this is how I'm going to do it. Or I want to scale my business to 1.2 million or something of that nature. What you have to be able to do is take that really big thing and break it down into small chunks. And for each of those small chunks, I think of it as like driving a car. You're only going to be able to see what those next steps are in the doing process. And it's the doing that leads to the achievement of the goal ultimately. I think of it like driving a car in the dark, right? Or a scooter or whatever, motorcycle, let's say, but let's just stick with the car analogy. You're driving a vehicle, let's put it that way. And in the dark, you can only see as far as the headlights extend. But as you move forward with the vehicle, obviously the headlights illuminate more space in front of you in that path. And so it's only by doing you move the vehicle forward, and then it illuminates those next aspects of either what needs to be done or what most makes sense to do to, again, achieve your outcome. And if you don't have an outcome in mind, like, where the hell are you driving the car? In addition to business goals, and I've had quite a few of them, both for my own businesses. I've helped folks with setting goals for their businesses and just getting clear on what their objectives are, short, mid, and long term. You're not going to know where you're putting the vehicle. So what you'll commonly hear from folks on YouTube, Matt Gray actually is an example, if you want to look him up, of an individual who just posted a video about why systems are more important than goals. I would just completely, given that you're watching this because you're a beginner at starting a business, just forget the systems thing altogether. The systems will develop as a result of doing the things you need to do to achieve the goal. And I think people that focus on systems honestly don't have goals, or they don't have good goals, or they're just they've built a machine and they're just at a steady stasis for the machine or their business currently. And there's nothing wrong with being at that point in your life or in your business. But from my point of view, it's impossible to do something new without setting a goal. So that's why goals are so important to set. Now, in terms of how you go about setting those goals, what I highly recommend you do is you follow what's called a Six Sigma philosophy. So Six Sigma is a mechanism that businesses use to be more efficient in their process. And oftentimes what that comes down to is challenging oneself or one's process by asking yourself why 5 times. So there's a rule of asking yourself why 5 times in Six Sigma. And so literally there's no bad goal. There's also, you could say conversely, no good goal, right? This is not a black and white thing. This is not a good or bad thing. It's just literally, what outcome do you want to see for your life and why? So just pick something out of the sky and run yourself through this exercise. So pick a goal or an outcome you want, or a change you could also say you want to make in your life. It could be literally anything. But in this case, I'm assuming if you're watching this, it's starting a business. So let's say you want to start a coaching business. Now, you need to make that somewhat time-bound, right, and measurable. So there's qualities to the goal. So SMART is an acronym that you can use to guide yourself through that. So it's actionable, it's time-bound, it has a specific outcome that can be measured. So usually that means there's a number tied to it. Like, I'm obsessed with always having a number be part of my goal. Even if it's something like an exercise goal, I usually have there's a number tied to it in terms of like pounds lost or miles run or something like that. Because again, it just creates like a very tangible data point that your brain can anchor to. And as your brain anchors to that goal, what it's going to do is like expand exponentially the solutions you start to see to the problems that are part of solving that goal. And again, it could be one goal equals one problem, but in most cases, again, using the starting a business as an example, one goal is going to have a multitude of problems just in terms of the initial launch, right? And then once you get all the things in place so that you can initially launch, you start to get your first clients, and then that will come with a whole nother list of problems, which will continue to inform your goals and the outcomes you need to achieve as you move forward through the process. So at a minimum, I gave you a preview to where I'm going with this. At a minimum, your business, in terms of starting it, you need to have clear objectives around not only the goal or the outcome you want to drive with your business, but then your mission, vision, your customer profile, and then the offer that you'll have for your folks. And all of those things are usually done upstream of that initial launch. That's what gets you into a place where you can ideally launch. And in subsequent videos this week, I'm going to get into actual examples of how I've helped folks through this, and I'll give you specific business examples, how they grew their business, how they scaled their business, the whole 9 yards. And I'm going to use 2 or 3 different businesses to illustrate that, and those will be a couple, it might be 2 videos, it might actually end up being 3 videos in total. But as a result of then also helping those people achieve their goals, your goals and your outcomes in terms of those drill downs from the big, hairy, audacious goal that you have will continue to modify, and you'll need to pivot, and they'll not pivot because they're wrong. Rarely does anyone set a goal and it's wrong. Now, you might set a goal and then you decide that like that's not for you. Because sometimes we set a goal, right, and we don't really know what all the downstream or upstream pieces are specific to that outcome, and you may decide that that outcome's just not aligned with you as a person or aligned with your self-actualization. And it's okay to go ahead and dump that goal at that point in time. But I personally had to put myself in goal jail because I stopped completely working towards my goals, even though I told myself that I would this week. And so that's why you haven't seen any videos posted to the channel. Gigi and Dave, thank you for checking in with me. I am okay. I just got a little sidetracked this week. And I did do some good brainstorming because we did get a lot of windshield time driving and riding in the car. So that was also very productive. And all of that brings me into the next step of this conversation today, which is like, how do you get back on track when you've fallen off of your goals? And so for me, what good looks like with that, and what it's also looked like for other folks, is accountability is sometimes part of that. And that's the importance of community. So if you're part of a community of folks that are also starting their business, you can work with folks to be your accountability partner, or you can use that group as a system of accountability so that you stay on track with your things. And exactly what happens in my community, which there's a link in the description for, is what I described in terms of 2 of the community members reaching out and saying, Jen, are you okay? I hope everything's okay. Like, we haven't heard from you. And that's sometimes exactly what we need to get ourselves on track. But we all also have quite a bit of our own personal agency and our own personal accountability. And so what you need to do is not, give yourself 11 lashings for what you did or what you didn't do as a result of your efforts over the course of the last week, the last month, the last day, right? Like whatever the time period was, you just get back on the horse. And if you can't just get back on the horse because you're feeling some sort of resistance around that, give yourself a date and a time, give yourself an assignment for when you're going to get back on the horse. So as an example, again, from myself, I decided that come Monday, no more procrastinating, excuses, nothing. You start writing your content again and posting your content again, like point blank. And then there's other aspects of my business that I'm working on, which I've sidelined as well. Those all get going. And I've got a lot of stuff sitting in here that's just been sitting in here, bouncing around, and that's never good either. So those things will become tangible outputs that come 5 a.m. Monday morning, I will be whole hog pursuing throughout the week and moving forward. So I want to leave you with just one last thought where all of this is concerned, and in terms of the importance of goals. And really, that last thought is, I want you to really consider prioritizing output. It could be creative output. It could be physical output. However you've got that goal defined, I want you to prioritize those outputs over passive input. And so what I mean by that is I want you to focus on doing the things, not thinking about the things. Give yourself credit where credit is due in terms of thinking about the things, but within the hierarchy of reward system you have for yourself, always reward yourself more for producing the things that you've been thinking about. And so that can also be a really good guidepost. It's hot out here. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. I think it's about 90 degrees there right now. But when you are prioritizing your outputs, when you see those outputs slag off, like you're going to see it. You're going to see it with your eyes. You're going to see it with your mind. You're going to see it in a variety of aspects in your life. And then that's when you have to call a timeout, call an audible, and put yourself in goal jail so you can reassess and just get back on the horse. And again, that's a weird metaphor, but it's an American one that we use. You just start. That's it. You don't have to spend an excessive amount of time thinking about it or beating yourself up about it. You just restart right where you are today.